guys, it is Aoife from Fred VC Died Laughing and I'm here with a library haul. So I went to the library yesterday and I just allowed myself to go wild and I picked up loads of books and I'm going to show you what I picked up next. So the first book is the third book in a trilogy that I have been reading and it is The Dark Days, Deceit by Alison Goodman. I just finished the second book, which was The Dark Days Pact just a couple of weeks ago. So you guys know, we'll probably not be surprised to see this one. So I had reserved this in my library and it came in and I'm very excited to see where the story goes. This is basically a Victorian England where we are following a woman called Lady Helen as she learns that she can basically see these demon-like creatures and fight them and save humans from them. And she ends up going into training to do this, which is kind of hard for a lady of the time to have to be doing these things, and it's a very interesting story to follow. So I'm really excited to see how this ends up. The next book I've picked up is The Changeling by Joy Williams, and I don't know much about this, but I think it's known as like for a modern fairy tale. I don't know when it was originally published. I should probably check that out. So I think it's from 1978 originally. I think it's just about a woman who maybe doesn't have particularly good mental health and she ends up it's something about how the lines between reality and imagination start blurring a little bit for her, and things go down. But it sounds kind of like spooky and maybe a bit twisty, and I'm looking forward to reading it and actually seeing what it is about. But I do think it's something about her struggles with motherhood and then the fact that the lines between reality for her are starting to become blurred. And there is something, it is called The Changeling, so I'm sure there's something there between maybe one of her babies and it could be something terrible there, I don't know, but we will see. The next book I picked up is Yuki Means Happiness by Alison Jean Lester, and this sounds like a pretty interesting book. I don't really know what to expect from it, but it is about a woman who moves to Tokyo to become a nanny for this family, and she starts taking care of the child, but as she is longer within this household she starts kind of figuring out that there's something wrong or there's just something not right in the family or in the household, and she starts trying to, I think, figure out how she can, I don't know whether she can leave or how she can save the child or something like that. But the fact that this was set in Tokyo was just a really kind of draw for me, and I decided I want to pick it up because I had noticed recently the last few books I read have all either been set in the US or the UK, and I'm trying to read more kind of outside of those areas. So I will be reading this and hopefully I will like it. Next book I have here is The House at Bishopsgate by Katie Hickman. This is a book I saw in the library ages ago, but at the time I think I wasn't picking up new books to read, but I remember the cover of it because I really like the cover. And I saw it again the other day, so I was like, I will pick this up. This is set in, I think it's the 1600s, 1611, and it's about a woman and her husband who have been living in Aleppo, and they move from Aleppo back to England to this place called Bishopsgate, and they set up a household, and it seems like that they are struggling with infertility. They really want children, but that is just not happening for them, and this woman ends up kind of entering their household for some reason and ends up becoming kind of indispensable to them, but there could be something else going on there as well with her. So yeah, it just sounds really interesting. As I said, this was very much just a cover pickup for me at the start, so I am looking forward to seeing how this works out, and yeah. The next book I have here, I've seen it pop up quite a bit on BookTube, and it is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this one is a fantasy book, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that much about it. I just have heard kind of bits and pieces where I know it's probably one that I will like. So this is set in Cairo, and it is basically where old stories linger, so tales of the jinn and the spirits, and we are following a character called Nari who just basically wants to leave Cairo, and she doesn't believe in magic, and apparently it's, I think, where magic ends up coming for her anyway. So I'm very much looking forward to it. The library did have the second book, which is, I can't remember, it's Kingdom of Copper maybe, or something like that. It did have the second book, but I decided to just pick up the first one and see how I feel about it, and then if I like that, I know the library does have the second book there, so I can reserve that. So yeah. The next book I picked up because I really like this author, and wouldn't, if someone asked me who my favourite authors were, I probably wouldn't name her, but she probably is actually one of my favourite authors because I've liked pretty much every book I've read from her, and that is Alice Hoffman, and this one is The Marriage of Opposites, and I think, pretty sure this one is a historical fiction. It is about a woman living in Paris in the 1800s, and she's from a family, I think a Jewish family, and she's married off to this widower, but then her husband dies, and I think his nephew comes to sort things out, and she ends up in a passionate love affair, and it's the back of it saying is that she takes control of her own life for the first time, and she ends up in this passionate love affair, and it sparks a scandal affecting her entire family, including her favourite son, who will one day become a founder member of the Impressionists and one of history's greatest artists. So there are obviously, this is obviously possibly about a real person. So I just always have loved Alice Hoffman's writing, and the characters she creates and the stories she tells. So I'm very much eager to read this and see if I continue liking all of Alice Hoffman's work as well. And then I picked up Dreams of Gods and Monsters, which is the third book in the I don't know what the series is called, Smoke and Bone, Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and this is a chunky book, so I obviously needed to read the third one because I read the first and second one, have absolutely loved them, both of them. I gave both of them 5 stars, and very much eager to see how the trilogy ends. Kind of scared to see how it ends as well, to be honest, but I am eager to get back into the world and with these characters who I absolutely adore, and yeah. The next book I picked up is called The Bloodprint by Osma Sehanath Khan, and it's very pretty, and this one I'm going to be honest, sounds kind of complicated. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to try and explain it, so I'm going to read a little bit from the inside cover so you guys will know what it is about. And it is: a dark power known as the Talisman has risen in the land. Born of ignorance and persecution, it is led by a man known only as the One-Eyed Preacher. A superstitious patriarchy, cruel and terrifying, the Talisman suppresses knowledge and subjugates women, and it is growing. But there are those who seek to stop the oppressive spread of the Talisman, a resistance formed of the Companions of Hera, a group of rebels versed in the power of ancient scripture, a magic known as the Claim, believe they've discovered the key to destroying the One-Eyed Preacher and his fervid followers, the Bloodprint. Finding this dangerous manuscript that the Talisman has tried to erase from the world promises to be their most dangerous undertaking yet. A perilous journey deep into Talisman territory, which may prove to be their last. So it kind of sounds like a feminist tale of up against patriarchy and fighting the patriarchy. So that sounds kind of interesting. I'm just presuming our main characters in this are going to be women. I hope they are, or I hope the majority of them are women. But I will report back once I've read this and you will know. And the last book I picked up is The True Queen by Zen Cho. This one kind of seems to be about where there is this kind of magical fairyland, and there are these 2 women who end up, they wake up on this distant shore with like no memories, and they end up having to travel to Britain, which seems to have magic. It seems to be a Britain where magic exists, and they basically need to try and fit in, and I think they need to figure out maybe who they are and how to get home, but it is something to do with fairyland, because the start of here says who will inherit fairyland, and yeah, I'm really sorry, so many books I kind of picked up just because they sounded vaguely interesting, and I don't know that much about them because I don't like to know too much about books before going into them, and I tried to pick up books, as many books as I could in the library this time that I didn't know about before, because I thought that would be a little bit fun, and yeah, so it will be fun, but it's hard to try and explain what they are about when I actually don't really know. So yeah, I will report back. You'll see these appear in my weekly wrap-ups coming up, and hopefully I will enjoy most of them, or all of them, or none of them. We will see. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!